Hello and welcome to the Digital Digest, your weekly breakfast of insights, tips and tricks, and general information that will help anyone trying to move things forward in this digital world of accounting. This show is sponsored by Genesis, the expense management tool that is pushing the boundaries with AI. It's also brought to you by Digital Disruptors I guess now, today, 2020, with Billy McLaughlin, who's going to help us dive into the world of AI and what the recent announcements have been from the UK government. And if no one has that's listening today has ever followed Billy, which I'm sure is incredibly rare, then she is the queen of AI with announcements pretty much every Friday, isn't it?
Yes, I do try.
So look, let's start on this, Billy, and look, give me a quick overview of what the announcements were earlier this week.
Yeah, no problem. So what was really exciting is it's kind of come from the top down. So the Prime Minister Keir Starmer did an announcement, quite unexpected actually. I think it was on Monday, and I'm pretty sure we only really heard it was happening the day before. So either his diary management is terrible or the press are really bad. I'm not really sure which. And he's announced the AI Opportunities Action Plan. So if you want to look into this, that's the name of it, the AI Opportunities Action Plan. And what they've done is they've appointed some key members of, I guess, the business world. I think there's a Nobel Prize winner in there. The name to remember is Matt Clifford. He has done some research, gone back to the government with 50 recommendations to try and make the UK one of the best places in the world to basically have an AI company. He wants the UK to be known as the country for AI, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, and is it right that they've adopted every single thing that he recommended, didn't they?
Yeah, all 50 of them, which just
Yeah.
seems, it kind of is quite hard to fathom because you think, how on earth are they going to manage 50 different recommendations? And although some of them are a little bit of a crossover, and obviously I've not rehearsed every single one, I think I'd need to get a life if that was the case. I'd be more worried about my social skills. But the what is interesting is that although some of them do overlap, so for example, there might be quite a generic one that says, and I only know this is recommendation 49 because the one around the finance is 48. So the one directly below that is quite generic and kind of says, increase AI adoption across the country type thing. So that kind of, it feels like the recommendations are great, but I feel like the whole smart targets has been missed. Like they need something to kind of make this actually doable.
Yeah. So they've said we want to achieve this, but not how we're going to achieve it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I assume some of them are a bit more targeted. I know that when I've looked at it, there's 13,000 odd jobs that are part of this commitment, and 14 billion in investment from private businesses. Is that right?
Yeah. So 14 billion investment, and I think they're expecting it to bring in just short of 30 million in the next decade or something. So they're hoping to see quite a big return on it.
30
Um,
billion was that, or 30?
yes, yeah,
30 billion.
30,
Yeah.
yeah. Just short of it, I think. But what we also need to kind of look into a little bit, and as much as I am inherently very positive about AI and I think it's exciting, sometimes these numbers are very skewed. So when they talk about 13,000 jobs, when I did a bit of digging, I think 1,000 of those was in construction to build the data centers. So although you think that's around AI, it's like, well, actually that's the builders. It's not the reason for the implementation. So it feels like a bit of a cop out sometimes with the figures. I wouldn't, if you are looking into this, I wouldn't focus too much on that. But no, the nuance of it is very positive.
Yeah, I guess you've got those short-term jobs that the investment creates, so building the infrastructure. Then the longer-term jobs where you've created a whole industry now that hopefully is going to drive internal investment from other countries, which I believe
Hmm.
is one of the main reasons that they're doing this.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, if they want to be a worldwide leader, well, I think we've missed the gun on environmental factors. We're behind other countries on this. So yeah, AI sounds like a good one to go after, and we need to, as a country, like change path somewhere to try and generate some money. AI is a good place to do it.
Yeah, and it's really good to see them seeing this. And what I do like is they address some of the challenges in here. So, a few things that concern me a little bit around AI, and I say this whenever I do a talk, is kind of the talent retention in the industry or even talent attraction. So if I think back to when I was leaving school looking for a job, not sure what industry to get into, if somebody in the media and the press was saying by the time you qualify, AI will be doing your job, I probably would choose a different career. But the reason why I like the fact they've got Matt Clifford involved is that he is the founder of a company called Entrepreneurs First, which is like a talent attraction company. So he understands kind of, I don't know what the word is, I'm going to use a sport term, but like the grassroots level of industries, to understand that bringing people in and kind of working from the bottom up and the top down is important. So that's really great. And then one of the other challenges that I've seen them addressing is around energy, because although it's quite easy to turn a blind eye to it, and I know I'm probably guilty of this, that the amount of energy that's consumed to run these AI models is not even fathomable, I don't think. I think that's why I turn a blind eye to it, because I just don't really understand it. And they're already addressing that they need to have conversations with energy companies about how they can make sure that this is going to be not a conflict of interest with the sustainability plan that the government has as well, because we don't want to kind of stop it before we even start.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's been lots of talk around how to get the most out of AI, and because it is so intensive from a computing perspective, the whole quantum computing development, which was, I think, said was going to be the next thing back 10, 20 years ago, and
Hmm.
hasn't really come to the fore, we believe is probably going to be quite pivotal for that, because it's a different way of utilizing the energy. But I'm not sure the tech's fully there, and if we have to use traditional computing methods, then yes, the the impact on data centers is insane.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. There's a challenge there. Um, I think we shouldn't shy away from either one of them, because we need solutions for the vast data centers that we've got anyway, irrespective of
Hmm.
AI. Um, so yeah, I think attacking them or linking both, I guess, government agendas together would be quite critical for this.
Yeah.
But something I did want to ask that I'd seen as a buzzword, and it doesn't always mean anything to me, but there was flagged as AI growth zones or centers. Um, do you know anything about how that's going to work?
No, so they've announced that the first AI growth zone, I think, is Oxford, if I remember rightly. But then the first technology centre is going to be Liverpool. So you can see they're spreading this out. What they haven't really given us detail on is what these are. What I'm predicting, and again, might be wrong, is I think back to years ago back when I was in practice, I remember writing, because I'm in Hull, and near to us we had a few of these zones that got a lot of tax relief, and I imagine and envisage it's going to be very similar. So I think, again, Keir Starmer's announcement seemed a little bit of a sales pitch. In my opinion, it was, hi, big companies, come to the UK, we're going to be like hip and not regulate you properly, and this, and it felt like it was a desperate plea in a way. But I mean, I'm not criticizing, because I do think it's great. So I imagine it's going to be a place where they say you might get sort of, I don't know, employers national insurance reductions, and maybe not have to pay full business rates, whatever it may be. I suspect they're going to try and encourage people to these places. The reason why they've chose Oxford as the first one is because they've identified that as having some of the best tech talent in the UK. And I guess if we're going to attract, I mean, Anthropic's already has their Anthropic is, like, for those people that are not aware, they're like a main competitor to kind of OpenAI. They're a big AI company, and they have one of their central hubs in London already. So there's already some companies here, and I think what is, again, a good thing is that Keir Starmer's not kind of rushing this, and he's saying, right, where are the best tech people? Because we want to make sure the first companies to come to the UK get the best experience, because then from that, it will then bleed out into the rest of the world, and people will say, yeah, the UK did a really good job for me. Look how well that company's doing. We want to do the same.
Yeah, and I guess places such as Bristol, which seems to attract a lot of tech talent, may
Yeah.
also follow.
Hmm.
And I agree with you. Tax breaks make sense. Yeah, probably employers and I, especially with the fact that it's been raised,
Yeah.
makes it's a good area to reduce it. But probably our enhanced R&D relief as well, because most of this is focused on developing new new enhancements in AI, right? So we want to be market leading. R&D is an easy way to tackle it. But Interesting that they've not announced how that would work. I guess maybe there's not been a detailed conversation with Chancellor on that then at this
Yeah, and
stage.
I mean, we've got the spring statement in a couple of months, I guess. So I'm wondering if maybe it'll. I can't see it being something she's going to mention verbally, but as the team and I usually spend the evening looking through the OOTLA, I'm sure there'll be something in the white paper document afterwards that we can home in on and say, right, this is what they're going to say. Because if you look at the recommendations table that's on the government website at the moment, what they do have is kind of I would say a timeline, but it's not that detailed. But they kind of have when you can expect to hear more details on these recommendations. So, if, for example, the finance one is summer 2025. That's when we know that we
Got
can
it.
expect to hear things.
Okay, well that's at least positive that
Yeah.
they've kind of set out a bit of a timeline rather than just made some bland announcements without any
Yeah.
plan.
We get
Um,
plenty of them.
we do, yeah, especially from government. So something that I guess would be that I'm intrigued about, and it's relevant to us, is what would you foresee the impact on the accounting sector?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because even in the opening, I think it's like 2 or 3 paragraphs into the web page, one of the comments made is around record keeping. So it's in the same sentence as potholes. So it says something like, "This is going to help. This is going to help small businesses record keeping and local councils fix potholes." So like we're being very very varied here, I guess. So there is acknowledgement that small businesses can utilize AI for record keeping, which is great, and I'm hoping that that means the government isn't naive to the fact that small businesses are agile, which is great, so they can adopt new technology usually quicker, but they don't necessarily have the finance to do so. So I'm hoping they're not just going to assume all small businesses are going to fork out a shed ton of money for um, this new technology that they're talking about. So maybe they're one of the things I think is they are potentially going to offer grants or support to the businesses that can then support the small businesses of record keeping. Hopefully there'll be something around education on that as well. I think with e-invoicing coming in, they're going to use this as an opportunity to kind of go down that path. But again, we can't just I think as accountants, what happens is we end up getting the full pressure of being the messenger. So I'm hoping the
Yeah,
government invest in their own communication methods rather than accountants doing it for them, because a lot of accountants lost trust with MTD being delayed so many times. And I worry that means that accountants will then be um, put off by sort of sending the message on AI. Um, what is interesting, and the reason why I do think it's going to impact accountants massively is because even if some of these recommendations don't impact our industry, they're going to impact our clients. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for us to speak to our clients about, for example, if these growth zones have tax breaks, there's going to be some really great opportunities for accountants to understand that and win new clients because they're ahead of the game, or supporting their current clients with having that really impressive knowledge of information and things that are going to make their their clients businesses more efficient, more profitable, and things like that. So those are a few things. And then the other thing that they talk a lot about is kind of and I think we spoke about this on LinkedIn about like the job applications. So they've said like AI is going to help people with job applications. Now, I'm kind of not really interested in that side of things. What I am interested in is that a job application to me is a form. So if it can help us with form filling, what forms can it help us with in our industry? Where can we kind of get AI to pull data, extract it? Is this going to be agentic, which is where I'm really excited about AI? Like, is this going to be able to support us to go out and get that information and pull it into the right places?
cool.
So yeah,
There's
fingers
there's an
crossed.
awful lot on that, Billy, and I want to come back to that term at the end because it's something I've not really dived into, and I want to learn
Mm.
a little bit about it. But let me see if I can break down some of this. So I never really take my cynical hat off. So if we go back to when you're saying about uh, the impact of MTD, well, the impact on MTD was that it basically increased costs for pretty much all small businesses because it
Mhm.
forced them to adopt technology that they pretty much had to pay for because the free versions couldn't really do much. So most businesses had to invest. Now, if they're already on technology and that technology develops the AI, and they're not charging more for that, then great, they benefit from it. But I cynically do not believe the government are going to communicate this effectively. It will be down to accountants. We know our clients, and they know we'll do it because we have to. The benefit, I guess, is going to be for those firms that have already, I guess, focused heavily on technology. There'll be less that they need to do. The clients will be more attuned and understanding the conversations, the considerations they need to make. And a lot of it, they may already have some of the technology in place that can utilize the tools. We've seen, some of these, I'm going to call them enhanced chatbots, the likes of
Hmm.
Jax and Intuit Assist, etc., that are starting to utilize AI. But I think the likes of Genesis, whole expense capture, the new revolution of that, and my prediction is we're going to see some new finance systems that are going to be, embedded with AI and will automate a lot more. We had the promise, I think, from Zero, maybe even like 7-8 years ago, before they bought, or around the time they bought HubDoc, was when they said, yep, you won't need to enter anything manually. Everything will be automated, the whole data capture side. And we've just still not quite seen that for businesses. So it's
Hmm.
definitely improved. We've just not
Yeah.
fully seen it.
Yeah, and I agree.
And
I
with
do think there'll be more finance solutions on the market. And I think the one that manages, because there will be a lot of accountants that kind of sit back and say, do you know what? I'm going to let the software do it for me because I don't want to go out and find a standalone piece. And I think in terms of accounts packages, I think the one that really nails AI comfortably is the one that will start to take the crown. Like we saw Sage 100% had the monopoly and they lost out on the cloud race. Well, the cloud race has now turned into the AI one, in my opinion. So it's an anyone's game again.
completely agree on that. And I think you made a really good point regarding talent and, making sure we secure the talent in the UK, but probably do we have sufficient talent to deliver on the UK's aims? And Emmanuel in the comments on the LinkedIn Live has basically flagged that. He said the hype may result in talent gaps, and shortages if the hype doesn't deliver. So we might invest and people may want to go down that route and go, okay, I'm going to go AI focus, but if this doesn't work, then those people are going to then leave the country to find other opportunities. So it is a bit of a roll of a dice here.
Yeah, so two things. So first of all, well, two things that basically the government have said about this. The first is they've said they're going to make it easier for those coming to the UK in terms of visa applications if they have the necessary skills. So they're
Brilliant.
more than willing to kind of let people into the country if they're going to bring something to this AI um, sort of thing that the government are doing. And then the second thing is they've committed, and again, part of these recommendations is that they are committed now to do education in schools, colleges, and universities around artificial intelligence. This is great. Obviously, this is brilliant for kind of the longevity of talent in the UK. But also, this again will impact accountants massively because we're going to see school leavers, college leavers, university leavers sort of going into the big bad world of work and thinking, right, okay, I can go into accounting and I can go to a practice who are doing things in a really archaic way. And I know technology can make a difference there. And this is something we're already seeing where there's a kind of generation that are saying, I'm not doing something that a computer can do. What's the point? So what we need to do is we kind of need to make the profession sexy again in that sense, because unfortunately all they will do is just go get a job at another company that is using AI, and that's not necessarily our industry. I think what will happen is we'll no longer be in competition with other accountants. We actually become in competition with all industries. So we need to
I
make
like
sure
the
we're,
way
we're advanced.
I like the way you said sexy again, like accounts has ever been sexy,
That's
really.
true, actually. I don't know where the again came from. I was channeling my
Maybe.
inner Donald Trump, I think.
True. Maybe it was pre us, right? But I think you make some really good points, and something that it's not just, I guess, universities, colleges, but something that has caused challenges over the last few years is the lack of focus on technology and cloud technology in like ICAW, ACCA training. And I know they've kind of caught up now, but they really need to make sure that they're on this with AI because similarly, if they go for, we bring someone in, they go for a training course, and all they're doing is looking at double entry bookkeeping, and which the systems are doing themselves,
Mhm.
they're going to be put off, and they're going to get to the end of their course and go, I don't want to be doing this. This isn't
Yeah.
what I thought I'd signed up for. So, I think we're calling on you, like ICW and ACCA. Look at this, react and plan now. If you're not doing it now, it's probably too late.
Yes.
So look, something I did want to pick up on is you used the word agentic, and I'm assuming that's agent with with like a verb. So look, can you explain for the listeners what agentic is?
Yeah, so agentic is petrifying. No, I'm joking. So what we're going to see the next wave of AI, and I think probably we'll start to see this increase quite a bit this year, because we see in the likes of Microsoft Copilot bringing this in, and obviously that's quite a mainstream product. When something is agentic, it essentially means that the computer will go and do a task for you. So you can program it to do that. So as an example, you might ask it to, well, you don't necessarily even have to ask it. Sometimes you can program it to do it. But if you have a client email you and say, could you send me my last 3 years accounts? The agent will know to go into your account system, go into that client, get that information, put it in a PDF and draft an email. What's good is it's not going to necessarily follow through with the end task. So again, it will kind of leave it in a draft stage and you can set it up to do that. But what we're going to see is a lot of these manual tasks are going to be eradicated because the agents will be able to do it for us. And I'm going to give you an example, which is not accountancy related, just so that people get to grips of how intelligent this is. Somebody gave one of these agents, the best way to describe it is a bit like a digital employee, I guess. They gave a digital agent $100 and said, "Can you turn this into 1,000?" So it went away and it set up an account on a stocks and shares website. And when it did it, it asked it to do the human verification. Interestingly, it couldn't pass it, but it knew to go to people per hour or Fiverr and message somebody and say, "Could you complete this for me for £10?" And the person said, "Well, are you a robot?" And it said, "No, I'm not. I'm a human. I'm just blind." So it knew to lie. And then it went and set up a website, set up an account on this website, and managed to start investing in stocks and shares. I mean, that's a really extreme case, but that story
That's
is
terrifying.
it's absolutely petrifying. And what's really scary is that story is about 18 months old. So
Yeah.
it shows that the technology is there. It just, what happens is it's very expensive and very techie driven at the beginning. But what we will start to see is that's going to be more available. So Microsoft Copilot, as I say, they're creating agents that you can access by doing drop down menus. So like, if this happens, then this happens. If that happens, then that happens. A bit like a decision tree, and the
Yeah.
agents can do it. So we're going to see a really nice, basic, easy, and less petrifying use case coming in, I think, to some of our admin tasks.
Yes, I mean, where the AI is learning to manipulate us and lie, that is concerning, especially if it's out there making more money than we can.
Yeah, that is true.
So one thing I saw actually, I think announced yesterday, was that ChatGPT have launched scheduled tasks. So essentially, what you're saying, but you're putting them in the future, which I think is one, great for programmers because they can kind of build this into what they do with the embedded integrations into ChatGPT. But also, I guess that means that I really hope this doesn't happen. But if you're looking at kind of LinkedIn things and the automation of all of your marketing that you can do, which I still feel is very obvious when AI or ChatGPT is kind of doing these things, you can kind of just plan out as far into the future everything you want to do, and you can even probably use the agent to plan all that and to kind of work out when the task will be.
Yeah, and what is going to be exciting about this, and again, I always like to try and relate the AI use cases back to accountancy. We just talked about the spring statement coming up. Well, at the moment, there's no information on that. But what we could do is we could actually do a schedule for March the 26th to say, at 4 p.m. after the announcement, could you go and do my research on this topic? So although the information is not available now, we can send it sort of in the future to do that,
Yeah.
which is going to be really exciting.
Yes. No, it is, and I think the whole thing is overall quite positive. You mentioned something right at the start, is that the UK government may be removing red tape, and I think that is important. That's what triggers investment, but we still need to be very, very careful about putting some controls around this, because otherwise this can spiral if we're not picking up on it. And the problem I always find is that government is still insanely slow. So I think they need to build a structure where there is some governance that is not their control, that knows to flag things where, or even just, have the autonomy to bring in restrictions or safety barriers if we start to develop things that maybe are not expected.
Yes, yeah, and what the government is doing is they're saying that they're going to set their own regulations. We're not bound by any other country now. We're not bound by the EU. We're not going to follow US law. We're going to do our own thing. But they did make sure that they mentioned the safety aspects and did say that they're going to be, I think one of the things they're doing is increasing computing power by 20-fold. Sorry about my camera.
Sorry.
And what's interesting is that when they do this, they're going to have a computer that can play chess of itself 500,000 times a second or something ridiculous. I'm not sure
Wow.
what's happened to my camera, sorry.
That's
But
right.
I mean, if you're going to create a beast like that, how do you possibly manage the safety that's associated with it? I'm not really sure. But they have confirmed in their recommendations that safety is paramount.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And it to me, I think AI has heard you bad mouthing it at times and taken over your camera. Look,
That must be it.
I think the fact that Billy's being invaded by AI here is probably a great place to wrap up this week's show, and the fact that my wife just brought in me tea. So look, hopefully everyone that's been listening has got some incredible insights. It's been amazing talking to you, Billy, about what the government's doing and actually how that will evolve over the coming 6 months. If I guess you do want to learn more about anything we talk about, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and the LinkedIn page, and you'll be notified every time we've got a live show. Thanks again to our wonderful sponsor, Genesys. And yeah, please do reach out if you've got any questions or if you want to learn more from Billy or myself.
Thank you so much.
Thanks all. Are you still here, Billy?